on the road. Oh, this is being recorded. Fine. All right. Folks, we've got 4 people here tonight. I'll note for the benefit of the quorum, we have me, the chairman, Don Carlson. We have Jim Hutchison. We have Tom Hoy sitting in for Greg Babcock. We have Noel Halverson. We do not yet have Tommy Everman, but he may appear at any time. Members of the board, does anyone need to abstain from voting tonight?
No.
No? All right. Was anyone out to see any of the properties before us tonight?
No.
All right, I'll take that as a no from everybody.
I went to items 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Okay, Tom, you went to 1, 2, 4, and 5. Okay,
Correct.
and finally, did any of you speak with anyone regarding the variance requests before us?
No.
All right. I think we're ready to move along with the approval of the agenda that we have. Any alterations? If not, a motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes, the agenda is approved. Next, we should consider the minutes from the last meeting. I was not there, but I understood it went well.
Move to approve.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting? Aye.
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 Very good. Okay, at this point, we should open the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Very well. We are in discussion and we are ready to proceed with our regular business. Stephanie, is there anything we need to know before we start in on this?
Oh, you know as much as I do.
All right, that's not much. I haven't been here for a couple months, so. All right, guys, let's talk about the first item. I understand Alderperson Gerlach is on regarding this. Am I to assume that that's the case?
I'm here if you need me.
All righty, thank you. Stephanie, why don't you lead us in on this item?
Sure. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So the first item we have is for 1979 Main Street. This is near the corner of Main and Mason intersection on the city's east side, better known as Wally Spot. This was recently before the Plan Commission for Popeyes. They are looking to locate here. They got a CUP for a drive-through facility. That was approved. We are now looking to get a variance for the floor area ratio. So currently their site plan looks like this with the drive aisle wrapping around the building here, plenty of parking on site. However, this is a very large lot. As part of the conditional use permit, we are requiring them to initiate some sort of a land division to lop off this back portion for a different use. But even with the full lot or the potential future lot, they do not meet the floor area ratio requirements. So that is what the request is for.
Okay, so even if they carve off the part in white and save the part that looks to me to be highlighted in gray, they still fail.
From what Paul has told me, they definitely are well under currently. So for any reason that land division doesn't occur or it occurs in a much smaller area, we do believe they'll still be under the floor area ratio for this district.
Ah, okay. Got it. Good. Is there anyone representing the applicant on?
Yes, sir. This is Mark Rodriguez, and I represent Smithco Eateries. We're the developer or potential developer of the property. And so, yeah, so I think to Stephanie's point, even if we will negotiate or we'll start a conversation about trying to segment off that additional property in the future with the city, and we'll work with you guys to see what the best use of that is. But regardless, whether we segment that portion off and rezone it or whatever, I think we still will be under that 0.1 requirement. And I think any particular area that we go into will probably have the same obstacle in the sense that we are ideally working with probably a 2,400 square foot building, which would limit us to just over half an acre if we were to meet that 0.1 measurement. And, you know, with a drive-through concept, that becomes highly problematic regardless where we go, especially ones that are notoriously successful. I think with this particular site, I think having the additional space actually becomes mutually beneficial in the sense that I think the largest concern from the Planning Commission was the concern of traffic potentially bleeding out into the highway. And we obviously want to avoid that. So by having the additional real estate, even the additional space that we're talking about fragmenting off in the future will allow us to, you know, prevent that overflow from bleeding into the street. So either way we go, even when we do, you know, portion that off in the future, we'll still be under that 0.1 metric. So I think we'll have to have that variance in any scenario we can look at.
What hardships do you face if you don't get a variance?
So, I mean, I'm sure that most of the people on the commission are aware of our West Side development and kind of the business that it enjoys. And so the problem that we have with our business just in general is a sense that even pre-COVID, you have about 70% of your business being generated in a drive-through format. So you can imagine the number of cars and space that takes up that exceed beyond the perimeters of the building itself. Post-COVID, that's even become more compounded in the fact that just more people tend to a contactless you know, approach, being a drive-through, even, you know, mobile ordering and pickup, which, you know, it's just a different dynamic. But even pre-COVID, it was, you know, heavily weighted to a drive-through concept. And so with a town like Green Bay, and we've been very successful in Green Bay, those drive-through queues can get pretty long, which, you know, if you don't have adequate spacing, you can't fit it. And so I don't know if I've ever built a Popeyes on a half-acre lot. I would be scared to know how tight that would get. But so generally speaking, about 0.75 is about the minimum, you know, size lot that we can make it fit with just how large the drive-throughs have become in terms of weighted revenue. Even now, you know, the brand has taken a more of a approach to drive-throughs just to offset the shift in demand for people that are gravitating more to drive-through formats. So that would probably be the hardship we would face, is just not having the real estate space available to accommodate the demand of the business. And that would likely affect traffic and ingress, egress, and a whole host of other things.
Okay, I'll turn this over to the other board members for questions. I have no further questions of the applicant.
Not either.
You're in?
Well, I have, Don, I have one question. Could we
Go
see
ahead.
that? Could we see that plan view again? I just want to make sure it's clear in my mind. Thank you, Stephanie. So the floor space we're talking about is that dark line area?
This is the building.
That's the building. And so the white is what? Concrete or something around the building where there are picnic tables or whatnot?
Green space, I think,
Okay,
is the space in the back directly behind the building.
okay. Okay, I'm clear. I'm good. Thank you.
And the shaded areas really just represent areas of paving that will probably be removed and redone versus existing paving that will likely just be left as it is. But essentially all that area is parking in the back.
Yeah.
Stephanie, could you summarize what the Plan Commission considered and discussed regarding this property?
Sure. This actually went before the Plan Commission twice. It was originally held because we did not have a traffic impact analysis completed. It was just back before the board at the beginning of June, where that traffic impact analysis was approved through our city engineering staff. So Currently, the traffic impact analysis shows that this site can handle well over the amount of cars that they're anticipating at this location. Aside from that, there was just the discussion about the rear portion of this because this does abut a neighborhood. So they had some concerns about the type of use and buffering here, but once we added that condition about this being parceled off for potential future use, those issues were put to bed. I think it was approved with 5 different conditions, and most of them are related to protecting that neighborhood and making sure that that traffic impact analysis was approved. That was approved the day of the meeting. So mostly it was surrounding traffic issues.
Yeah, and I'll add that I think one of the factors that Dave Hansen from the city engineer wanted us to be able to accommodate was a stacking queue that was large enough to handle a metric that the traffic study basically implied would be kind of our maximum or high end level. And so in order to accommodate that, we did queue it through all of this available space, which again kind of coincides with the need for the variances to have the space to accommodate exactly what the traffic study kind of dictated. So we do have that space. We have adequate stacking size for more than what the city would like us to be if we are, needing to handle it. We have it.
I think that they said that it can handle like somewhere between 55 and 70 cars before it touches.
76.
Yeah, it's quite a large amount.
But through all that, you just have one entrance and egress off of Main Street.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. Alderperson Gerlach, did you have anything you wish to say regarding this?
Well, I would say that I certainly support the development of the Popeyes Fried Chicken here. I will just mention that this is part of Old Preble neighborhood. And in case you don't know, that's one of the newer neighborhoods in the city of Green Bay, was the neighborhood of the year in its first year of existence in 2019, and was named the most resilient neighborhood last year in 2020. And so Wally's Spot has always been a very active part of the neighborhood, a very supportive business. I'm hoping that Popeyes Fried Chicken is going to take over and support the neighborhood. There are homes, private homes right behind this. And there is some wonderful opportunity for that approximately 1 acre of land to be well used. This city of Green Bay has some good ideas for how that can be used for the community. And so I'm hoping that this is going to be a successful business and that they're going to be a good part of the neighborhood association. And full transparency, I am an officer in the neighborhood association also. And also that they will be generous and understanding with the city of Green Bay and help us make good use of that land. That's where I stand.
Very good. Thank you. We'll note that Tommy is on. Mr. Everman, greetings. Tommy.
I've been listening in. Just there was a lot going on in the background, so I didn't want
Okay.
you guys. The staff's all leaving. I just want to question: is the variance that we're approving today for the entire property, or just the proposed area that they're potentially building on, or is this no matter what happens with that other property, the variance is approved across the board? Null nodding, so that's a yes.
It's currently for the whole of the property.
Got it. That was it. But I
Okay, and just for the record, Tommy, did you see any of the properties before? Did you go out to look at any of them? Did you speak with anyone regarding these requests? Very good. And if you need to recuse, you can, but I do formally ask that at the beginning of every meeting, so. All right, we're good. Well, I think we'll recall that we talked about the Popeyes on the west side, and some of the same issues came up. I don't have a problem with this,
I
but
think Noel has a
no,
question.
no, go ahead.
I put my hand up, see the little yellow hand up.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Just to ask, just two things, I guess. One is that Mr. Rodriguez is the what's the average half-life of the, the amount of time you guys have the bars trying to come through a new Popeyes? I know it was kind of crazy on the west side. Does that last a month? Does that last 2 months? I mean, how long before there's no more is set up here in this extra parking area, or the old Wally's parking area, to direct the traffic through the drive-through lanes when you guys are brand new?
So it's a little variable, but yeah, the market penetrating restaurant is always the most impacted. So that very first restaurant in a market is the one that usually has the most stigma around it. I would say that those restaurants tend to settle down into more normalized business around 6 months. But each subsequent restaurant is dramatically different. So this second restaurant that you'll see, and we had this long discussion in the planning commission, it's very hard to illustrate exactly where that second location is from that first, for a multitude of different reasons. You'll probably see 2/3 of what we saw at Green Bay West, and the retention rate will fall off much, much faster. So whereas in Green Bay West, we probably dropped anywhere between a week over a series of weeks, you'll see that fall off more like 10 to 12% in a matter of weeks. And it will probably settle off into more of a stabilized business within a matter of probably 3 to 4 months. So much, much different. So one of the, I think one of the other, I forget which other council member asked a question, but as opposed to the variance, I think the variance applies to regardless of the full site or the smaller site, but there is a contingency in our conditional use permit in that we will have a discussion with the city on how to better use that back portion. And to the alderman's point, we are fully on board with doing whatever we can to benefit, the community behind us, as well as the city of Green Bay. To Noel's point, 4 months down the road, we probably won't need that pennant portion of this flag-shaped lot. And so whatever we can do to better the city, we won't need it at that point, because our business will be stabilized and our drive-through queuing will not need to be structured in a way that needs to utilize that extra real estate. I would rather give it to the city because we don't want to upkeep it. We'd rather give it to you guys to have a better use than just having a huge parking lot that we can't use. So.
And thank you. I would note that, that might be your normal experience, but this is Green Bay. There are probably East Siders who've never been to the West Side in their lives. So you might have a completely new experience here.
Well, I'll give you 2 examples. We've done 2 locations very similar in the city of Columbia, Missouri. Population density is roughly the same. You've got that geometrical split. Instead of it being an east and west, it's north and south, but same concept. And you kind of saw that trajectory on those sites. We don't typically build multiple locations in one city unless we think that city can support it. Green Bay obviously can. So from our experiences, they've all been in towns with this same dynamic or similar dynamics. Springfield, Missouri, same concept. So we have had some experience with it. But yeah, no, we would pleasantly be surprised if we are just as busy over there. But in our 27 restaurants that we've done, that's never happened. So we'll see.
Right. And Mr. Chairman, I think, when I look at this request, especially as it relates to, a drive-through restaurant. I mean, we've seen a couple of these in recent months already, where the provision of drive-through lanes, the double drive-through lane requirement to pass by on the exterior, these are all requirements of the code. And they create, in the compliance of off-street parking spaces and the drive-through lane widths, they force a floor area ratio. I think that's not, per code. So I think this is the situation. We've got one part of the code creating a conflict with another part of the code, with regard to the density we can build on a lot. So, this is a building footprint that the developer believes meets their business needs. And then all of the rest of this is practically required by other parts of the code, and then creates a situation of non-compliance. So I think, maybe it's something that staff ought to think about in terms of reviewing the zoning as it relates to drive-through businesses, particularly with that extra wide pass-by lane and drive-through and see if we can eliminate future requests by making some tweaks to the code on this for floor area ratio. But I just wanted to, that's my editorial comment for this item.
Well said. No, I appreciate that. I think you're right. We've got a new kind of business and a new kind of environment that promotes this type of thing. We've also got an oddly force. So
Right.
there are a number of reasons why well, to me, and perhaps before we go further, I want to make sure that I know if there's anyone else, and I'll get to you, Tom. If there's anyone else that wishes to speak for or against this. Mr. Hoy, you had a question.
I do. It's mostly for the older person. The current customer profile of Wally's is it's a supper club. Folks drive in, they have a sit down, they leave 30 to 45 minutes later. Is there a chance for any later accommodation in regards to the folks who live behind this property? If there becomes an issue with traffic noise, I mean, it's having a potential?
Well, there's certainly a potential for it. And I mean, I've never experienced, I live a half block from Wally's Spot, behind Wally's Spot. I've never experienced, living right behind a drive-through restaurant. No one has expressed that concern to me. I don't know I don't see any reason to let that be a factor when no one has expressed a concern. The one thing they have said is that privacy fence must remain. That's one thing that Wally's Spot always kept, a privacy fence between itself and the neighbors. Nobody's mentioned any possibility of noise being a problem.
And was that fence a condition of the Plan Commission's approval?
Don't think so.
It was not. But there are buffering requirements between commercial sites and residentially zoned areas. So I imagine that's part of the buffering that was required for Wally's to go in the first place.
And that'll carry
Okay.
regardless of action by us?
That's just a standard site plan review thing.
Okay.
Are we
Ready to have it?
violently in agreement?
I'll move approval of the request as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Halverson, seconded by Mr. Hoy to approve the variance for Popeyes as given to us. All in favor?
I,
Aye. Any opposed? I saw your hand, Tom. I want to make sure I understand. Were you a yes or a no?
I'm a yes.
Very good. I detect 5-0. You have your variance.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. We have item number 2. You want to tee this one up, Stephanie?
Sure. This is a variance for 1244, 1248 Liberty Street, which is on the city's west side. This is actually for 2 separate sections of our code related to parking. So this is a photo of the property submitted by the property owner. This has the already existing expansion of this paved driveway. So what the variances would be for to have the front yard space no greater than 8 feet in width beyond the garage door here. And then they have no tapering. So they're looking for the variance to maintain this width on both sides and then also to have no taper area. The request was submitted in order to not have tenants driving over the yard. So I think that this has come up many times at Board of Appeals, whether or not that space is needed, what we should be doing with the code, if there's anything additional or any changes that we should be making to our parking code about this. But as of right now, it still reads that we do need that tapering here. So that is what the request is for.
Okay, so presumably this was done without a permit?
Yes, from what I understand. I do believe the applicant is on, though, if there are any questions.
Okay, why don't we get right to the applicant? Who wishes to speak on behalf of this variance request?
Or the owner.
Yes,
Yeah, there was a permit taken. And what happened is we got on the job and the guys that were helping me, they said, well, we did other ones in the neighborhood. You know, they'll be fine with it. Otherwise, they're gonna have you driving over top of the lawn. I was like, I don't know. You know, so it's kind of weird. You know, I got kind of stuck or caught in that one. And I also submitted 13 other pictures of driveways in the immediate adjacent streets. You know, where the driveways do come out to the sidewalk. You know, I kind of shrugged my shoulders like, well, if it kind of fits in with everywhere else. And I have a couple pictures of where people drive over that grass, you know, makes a mess in the street and a mess on the sidewalk. This kind of alleviates that.
okay, I'm a little confused, and Stephanie, you haven't been here long enough to know that that's not unusual. However, what are we, what is the objection here?
There's not a taper. It doesn't angle back toward the driveway before it reaches the sidewalk.
I understand, but it sounds to me as if the applicant is almost arguing that he would like to put a taper in. I want to make sure I understand what we're approving and why we're approving it and why we're not approving something else.
No. What I'm trying to just explain is just be 100% open and honest. This is after the fact now. That taper should have been from 5 feet next to the grass there up to the lot or there,
Yeah,
like that. And what I'm doing is asking to be okayed rather than having to saw it out. Can I leave it like it is? Because there's so many of them like that in the neighborhood and it alleviates a problem.
okay.
And so you pulled a permit to pave, but what you paved didn't match the permit?
Correct.
Okay.
You paved more than the permit.
Correct.
All right.
You know, just trying to be 100%, you know. I kind of got stuck with the concrete on the truck with these guys, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay.
Okay. I want to hear what the questions are from the rest of the board. I'll be quiet on that one. Tom, Noel, Tommy, Jim,
I don't have any questions.
nobody has questions?
Well, I guess I have a question. The reason for the taper is a cosmetic, I would think. Is that correct? Or do we know why we require a taper?
It's generally cosmetic to keep people off of grass. We don't want people driving over sidewalks and then destroying grass also in that process. So from the planning side, we've discussed a few times whether or not it's been useful. I feel like a lot of people initially put in the boulder and the taper and whatever they need to protect that portion, and then people drive over it anyway, which is generally what's been happening. So from the planning side, we've been having discussions on if that code needs some editing in the first place. Because from our inspection team, they're saying it's kind of a nightmare to enforce because someone can put something there with that taper and then, you know, the moment you leave, they can remove it and drive over it.
Right.
So it's generally just to protect that sidewalk so we don't have to do that, and then to keep the curb cuts from getting larger because we want that curb cut to remain the same.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good explanation. I understand the situation now.
And I want to just clarify that the only thing we're talking about is the taper, the width, and the placement of not an issue. So being in front of the garage door, from a safety perspective, none of that matters. It's literally just the taper.
Taper and then the width here. So for one, I understand this is a little bit wider than it is allowed to be. So it does not match the plan submission. It ended up being the full width, you know, over a car. So over 8 feet.
What's the actual?
There was never any mention of that width situation in anything I got.
That is what I'm viewing here on this site plan and from the application.
What measurement do you have on the site plan?
Let's see. Not to exceed 25 feet total. I think it says maybe 8 feet. I'm not sure what that says.
I think it's max 8 feet.
Max 8 feet, I believe so also, because it's on the other side. I can see it.
Okay. Your eyes are better than mine.
Yeah.
So what I'm assuming happened is that the extension is more than 8 feet.
But I
Or
don't.
is it the whole thing's supposed to be 25 and then they went 8 and 8, which then makes it 32? Is that the idea? So it should have been, is that?
I don't think that's the total width that's the issue. From what I can see from Paul's notes, it's that this was not installed at 8 feet. That this must be wider than 8 feet on both sides.
Well, if the existing part of the driveway, if you look at one of the views from the front, the existing driveway was 16 feet wide, 2 8-foot slabs. It actually kind of looks like it's 2 additional 8 foot. So it is a 30, I would say it's 32 feet instead of 25 feet, but that's a maximum 8 foot. So if the maximum total with the side, side slabs is 25, then this certainly is beyond that. Yeah, that's.
Does it matter that this is a duplex? I see 2 addresses. I mean, this isn't one location, really, it's 2.
No, I think that those are the requirements for single and double. Both
Okay,
have the same width. I'm gonna pull up the code section right now if my computer cooperates with me.
So if it's 16 feet plus 8 plus 8, 32 is allowable.
No.
I'm not sure. I might have did a variance to make, because you could add 8 feet to each side. I might have came in for that. Do you have the folder by you? Because there's no problem with the width.
The question is what was presented to the city in the original permit request. If that's what Stephanie had, and I can see there's a little bit of confusion.
Yeah, this was on the application itself, but of course we just changed all of our code all of our code numbers. So I'm gonna try to figure out where that is in our new code.
Oh.
But this was what was applied for. And that Paul noted both of these are required for this.
Oh, Paul wrote that in there after I submitted it.
Yes, those are his notes.
Front yard space no greater than 8 feet in width beyond garage door.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at that front photo, it doesn't look like they're wider than 8 feet. It just
Right.
is that, are we looking at also another limit that's not being addressed here of 25 feet maximum total width that's been exceeded by, 7 feet here? But that wouldn't make sense because we've had certainly quite a few of these where we've put 8 feet on either side of the driveway
right.
Yeah,
with the taper, but where we've done that. So I'm not sure that there is a 25 foot.
I apologize. The thought I was having about being there for a variance was a different property. And you guys were gracious enough for me on a different duplex to put 12 feet on one side versus just 8 feet on both sides. So forget that last statement I made about this one. We'll have to wait for
Okay.
Stephanie's advice on that.
So from what I can see, I think I'm in the right section of code. They have the minimum and maximum widths of driveways on their own. And then it notes that driveways leading to garages are limited to a maximum width of 25 feet at the property line and 30 at the curb pavement, but may increase to the width of the garage. I think that the issue here is that it leads directly up to a garage that is not as wide as that pavement is. So that's where the 25 feet comes in. Those seem to
Yeah,
contradict each
that's-
other,
that's
both of those codes, but it's not, so I don't know.
Well, that'd be another reason for that taper, because that taper brings it down, you know, to 25 or in this at the property line, which would be the inside edge of that sidewalk. So, you know, that's another reason then we're exceeding that maximum width of the driveway by not having the taper. It's an aesthetic thing, but it's also getting line. But I kind of, if you guys are thinking about changing the ordinance language to allow to retire the taper, you know, I know that's not necessarily the case, but I think that would weigh on my decision as to what to do here.
I guess my reaction is that I'm okay with what's there, but I like the taper. I guess I would prefer to see the taper in this case.
Steph, do you have the pictures I submitted with the dirt and the stuff on each side of the driveways?
I received an email with a couple of photos today. Are they those?
Yeah,
Okay. Let me pull those up quick.
or I can, I'm used to the other meeting thing where I can present. Oh, I forgot to mention, thank you guys for seeing me today. I'm a school teacher. I'm in the COVID made me crazy, so. So thank you for your service and thank you for letting me reappear today.
Is this the photo that you're referencing, Glenn?
Yeah, there's actually two, one of each side of that property. But that gets you the general idea. I don't think that taper looks as good as mine.
Is the question whether or not the taper encourages people to not drive on the dirt, or is the, you know, in other words, could you at the end of the in the middle of that what you'd cut out of your concrete, and then encourage anybody to drive then only on the taper and get to the driveway and be out. I can see the benefit of a taper for aesthetic reasons and for encouraging people not to drive on the lawn. But I believe what the applicant may be arguing, and well put, is that if the taper is there, there's going to be driving on the lawn in either case, so in any event, so.
Yeah, and I would say from, you know, just looking at something like this, if there's a car parked up against that garage door, and I'm trying to get onto that side slab, I'm not gonna have, you know, my housemate move that car so that I can get into that slab. I'm just gonna drive directly onto that slab.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
if it's just paved as it is here in this photo, you know, then I'm driving in like that because I can angle in off the driveway and onto that slab. Taper, I might be doing a little bit of off-roading there and getting the effect that we saw in that photo just now.
Yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying.
So, you know, I mean, it's
Stop touching the phone.
You could also argue, though, that with the taper missing is that you're gonna visually create a new taper, and the grass that is leading to the curb is gonna get torn up as well, because I'm gonna come off that slab and go off towards the curb. And so you're gonna have all this dirt right here coming at it as well.
So I'm thinking if there's only one car in that driveway and it's pulled up, you wouldn't drive over the apron. Whereas, you know, yeah, if there were two cars stacked there and you're trying to park a third in there, then you're off-roading again, but.
And the other thing is, we were looking at a minute ago, are we under the assumption that that taper is to code? Because that didn't look like that example was a good example.
Yeah, it looked kind of curved, didn't it?
Yeah,
It did, and currently our code reads that you have to have some sort of vegetation, hardscaping, something in that taper area to prevent people from driving over it. So that one wasn't in compliance. That is so to Noel's point, the planning department is discussing removing that portion of it, not necessarily the whole taper, but how much stuff do you put in that taper to stop people from driving in it? So that's more what we're looking to get rid of. Like, do you really need a big boulder, or is that just gonna go away anyway? But the taper itself is meant to protect like this portion of the apron, so that way people aren't constantly driving over it.
Yep.
Having other photos of the neighborhood where they don't drive over that part, if you want to present any of those, or if anybody had a further question on that. Otherwise, I'll leave it up to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
What do you think, guys?
I'll jump out there. I'm leaning to deny. Plan was submitted, submitted correctly and approved. I understand it. I've told this story before. Where I came from in California, we had the same situation with multiple cars and jockeying for position and all that stuff. And so I understand the frustrations of what all that looks like, but I don't feel that the 3-step variance request that we've asked for to say, hey, yes to all 3 of these, it's been demonstrating it's an inconvenience kind of thing. And so I'm going to vote to deny.
Can I just step in there? All of a
Yes,
sudden, I submitted a 1-step variance request, and somehow in either people's minds or on paper, it became 3. So I'm really not.
No,
clear.
I'm referring to the end of the application. There's 3 questions. It has to be yes to all 3 of those.
I
For us
got you.
to consider it.
I
and
thought
so
there was
for
for
me-
3 problems. I'm sorry.
Nope,
no,
there's a 3-step verification test that all applications and all applicants should go through. It needs to be a hard yes to all 3 of those for us to consider it. I don't feel that the case has been made that all 3 of those are being demonstrated right now for me. But that's one.
Thank you.
Jim, Tom, Noel,
Tom, was that a motion to deny? Tommy?
I thought we were, but I mean, I can do that if that's where we're at, if no one has any comments or questions. I'll make a motion to deny the variance.
do we have a second? Okay, I will take my chairmanship authority, and I will second Tommy's motion. So this puts a motion before with respect to the Shackner property to deny the variance, all variances as requested. Fairly put, Tommy? Very good. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Mine is an
Aye.
aye. Mine is an aye. Or Jim and Tom?
No,
Um,
Okay, the motion was to deny. We have 3 ayes and 2 noes. Therefore, the motion holds, and we have denied the variance request. Is that the way all 5 of you understand it?
yes,
yes,
Okay. All right, we've settled that one. Can we move on to number 3?
Thank you all for your service. I'm going to check out now. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thank you, sir.
I'll check with you guys, Steph, see what we can do in there.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Again, thank you for your guys' service. I know you don't get paid for it, so I got to had a father in city government, so. All right.
You are correct. We do not.
Sometimes you pay your money and take your chances. So, okay,
Yep,
thank you. Bye-bye.
sure. You're welcome.
I wish they were all like that on.
I do too. I do too.
That's the nicest denial I think we've ever gotten.
I know. Let the record show that there are some good denials. Let's talk next about item number 3. Steph, do you want to set it up?
Yes, this is at 1718 Acorn Way. I believe this is way out on the west side. So this property located here, it's a corner lot with the rear yard being this portion of the property. They are requesting a variance to their rear setback for a deck. So a deck had previously existed onto the home. It had deteriorated. They had taken it off, has already rebuilt it from what I understand to the specifications of the last deck without realizing that it was encroaching into the rear setback. So with that rebuild, they needed to get this variance. So this is one of the roadways, the other roadway here. And this is a visual of that rear yard. So very heavily landscaped, not very visible from the right of way. I don't see the applicant, but she may be on the call. They are just requesting to get this 6-foot setback in the rear.
So can you go back to the parcel image? So this deck is actually on the left of that house then, right? Right? It looks, it's the side from our perspective.
Yes, it looks like a side. It is technically the rear, but this is where the deck is located.
Okay.
Is there anyone on the call tonight wishes to speak for or against this property?
We did receive one letter of support from a neighbor also.
Okay,
Do we know which one? Like where they're at? Is it
No,
2200?
Look it up quickly though. I'm sure I can figure it out.
She's looking that up. So this is technically a side setback or a rear setback. I'm just clarifying again.
Rear.
rear.
Which is
But
required to be.
visually, if it was a
Visually.
side setback, what's the requirement for a side setback?
5 or 6 feet,
Hmm.
depending on the zoning district. So close.
So in theory, they're at 9 feet right now, or based on the design, that it's a 9-foot setback.
I believe it's
Right.
6. Oh, no, 9. Well,
So as it,
They want 9. The code says 25 based on it being the rear of the
Mhm.
building.
but if it was a side setback, it'd be 5 or 6 feet as a side,
Right.
depending on which
Yeah.
way we're viewing the house.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
If it weren't a corner lot, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
Yes, so there's a real hardship. on this.
Yeah. Is anybody on the call? Because I personally can move quickly on this if everybody else wants to move quickly.
Move quickly, Tommy.
yes,
Motion
that-
to approve the variance.
the
Second.
neighbor is the neighbor that would be mostly impacted by it too. So that
Awesome.
helps.
Okay.
Even, even better.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the variance for the Nelson Bighorn Way as it has been presented to us. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Tommy, you were an aye, I assume. Very good, 5-0. Ms. Nelson has her variance. Moving right along, we're at the property on Edelweiss Drive. You want to discuss this one, Steph?
Yes, so Paul wanted me to bring to your attention that there are 2 similar applications on your agenda today for egress windows. So there are some sort of internal policy or maybe set policy regarding different types of setbacks and what can encroach into those, and that egress windows have not historically been a part of that policy. So keep that in mind with these 2 applications to see if we're going to recommend any changes to the code or any policies that we'd like to have for the zoning administrator once he returns.
Okay, okay, before you go further, Steph, what you're saying is that the terms that have been assumed and interpreted for the code by the planning staff, there has been no exceptions made for egress construction.
Yes, all egress windows have had the hard line of the setback law when other things have been giving some leniency into setbacks. So
Yeah.
Paul wanted, I'm not quite sure I understand it fully because I don't do this very often, but for the egress windows, I think that he had mentioned that there's just not a high enough volume of them for us to ever have considered it, because this is his, I think, third application this year that's similar. So to maybe try to figure out if there's some sort of staff level leniency or policy that we can create regarding that.
Okay,
Yeah, you're gonna be seeing a lot more of them.
I can imagine. So the site plan will look similar to this. So this is where the window is being proposed, and it goes within the, I believe, side yard, front yard setback. I think the other one is very similar in nature, that you'll just, this is another corner lot, so kind of wherever you put it, you're going to see it. So it's going within that setback area. Here's
Yeah,
another
it's
view.
just, it's an extra deep window well if you,
Yeah.
and an extra wide window well, if you think of it that way, right?
Mhm.
yeah, so as we're looking at the picture that Stephanie has up, the new egress would be an expansion of the little window well on the left. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
But typically, these are also limited to side and rear yards. When you have a corner lot, everything's the front, so it's also
Yep.
a little more complicated with this application.
Right.
But that would be the location of it.
Yeah. It would, I think it would be a completely different conversation if these were above grade. But what's really above grade with one of these egress windows is just the sill around the window, and that's not more than really a few inches high. I trainer for administration.
yeah,
It should just be allowed, period. I intend to support
yeah,
this.
I agree with you, Noel. It's simply not visible enough to matter enough to me to be a part of that part of that setback concern, so. Yeah, I won't allow this comment to prejudice necessarily our discussion of item number 7, but at least for item number 4, I'm okay with it. Is there an applicant or someone who wishes to speak for item number 4?
Yes, my name is Thomas Grosnick. I'm the owner, and I
All
live
right.
on the Tyrolean Drive side, and my tenant lives on the Little Edelweiss side.
All right, all right. So could you explain to us the reason why you are proposing what you're proposing?
Well, 2 reasons. One is the tenants needed a 3rd bedroom, which is why I went ahead and did this and had a contractor. I didn't realize there was a permit problem, but that was it was just one of those things. But the point is that a 3rd bedroom was required by the tenants, and they were very good tenants, and I wanted to keep them, which is why I decided to put it there.
Okay, so this is an existing structure. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, it's actually about 80% completed
Okay.
before it was stopped.
Okay,
And I take the blame for that as the owner. I should have known better. I should have investigated more. But I found out later that an owner of a duplex can't apply for a building permit, which, blew me away, but I guess it is what it is.
okay, well, what you're saying is that you have a tenant who needed it. There's a need
Correct.
there's a need to put a bedroom in the basement.
That's correct.
What bothers me is that if we do not grant the variance, I suspect there would still be that strong desire to use the basement as a bedroom. So for simple safety reasons alone, it's kind of hard to argue against this, but in addition, because of the fact that it's really not that visible, I don't think it's a big deal. I guess I'm I'm speaking around the same argument that Noel made.
Yeah.
And if we're all in agreement with that, I think we can dispatch this one.
I would move approval of the variances requested, subject to the petitioner doing everything they need to do vis-a-vis permits, to get the thing constructed.
Stand completely.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have Jim seconding Noel's motion to approve with the qualification that we're not going to waive suitable permitting requirements. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Good. Mr. Grosnick, you have your variance,
Thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
but be sure you get your permit squared away.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All righty, we'll move on to the next one. Item number 5 is on Zizi Avenue. Want to talk to us about this, Steph?
Yes, this is another fun driveway expansion. So here's the property located here, a good idea of their site plan and the driveway location. And here is the front view. So they are looking to add some extension onto that pavement. I believe the dimensions are pretty small. 2 to 3 feet by 21 long. So not as wide as the last one that we saw, basically just taper up to that door. I'm guessing it's for additional parking. And that's all that I have on that application.
Are those front doors, like entry doors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, is there someone from the applicant that wishes to speak regarding this variance request? No one from the applicant? Okay, Tom, you had some discussions with Paul regarding this? I did not get a chance to go through all the correspondence, but could you summarize what that was about?
It's my understanding that the applicant submitted some photos of existing homes with the driveway in front of the front doors in an attempt to justify what they want to do. And I thought, okay, well, if we look at it that way, if they've been there in the past, would they be grandfathered in? And Paul said no. They would be judged on a case-by-case basis. So the notion that already driveways out there that are blocking the front doors, it should not be weighing on our decision in regards to this variance. In addition to that opinion from Paul, he also shared with me, and I forwarded this to the other board members, the comments from the Green Bay Police Department and from the fire department that they are not in favor of allowing variances of this sort, where they're blocking the egress from the home because they feel it constitutes a hazard to the first responders. So in that vein, I guess, I would submit that we deny variance request.
Is that a motion, Tom?
Well, if other folks want to talk, I mean, the floor is open, but the reasoning here, my thoughts on it are we're getting pretty direct information from the fire department and the police department that this is going to constrict how they deliver their services to a homeowner. That a car parked in front of a doorway, it's gonna slow down a fireman with a stretcher or a police officer, and that's the reason why.
Yeah, they've communicated that to us on previous requests of similar nature, right?
Right,
Yes.
they did. And in fact, Tom was the one who pushed hard on this in his previous service on the board. I take it the Kathleen on here is Ms. Van Lannen.
Yes, it is.
Do you wish to speak regarding that you've heard so far?
I understand your concerns and I understand the fact that the police department and the fire department are concerned about that. My concern would be that we have on that side in the winter, we would be able to shovel that away so we don't have to move our vehicle over. Right now, as it stands, we move our vehicle over for me to actually get in that side on the grass side. But if we have that extra 3 feet, we can shovel that and then safely at our ages, we can get in and out of our vehicle without having to move in on our renter's end. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it correctly, but if I have to move my truck over for me to get in, then I'm impeding on my renter's side.
So in a sense, you're saying this is more a sidewalk than a wide
Right.
driveway.
That is the reason why we're trying to keep it within, whatever you call that, where you slide up and you keep our variance, line it up with the front door and everything. I understand it's a hindrance, but most of the time when your fire department and your police department come, if they have to move anybody out of the area, they're going to have to move a vehicle anyways. And where it is setting right now, they're not going to be able to get a straight shot in the door. They'd have to go through the garage.
Yeah, this is adding 6 feet.
Because we have to,
the property here.
the way that, right, that would give us an extra 6 feet for them to work with and for us to work with. And right now, if we park on the grass, then that's a beautification problem, which we're just, all the pictures that I sent and everything wasn't to point out, you're the bad person, this has gotten away with that. We just want to do it the right way. And, to be in compliance and to be good with the neighborhood. I mean, I don't have the neighbors that are around us don't have a problem with.
Sure. I guess my question is, are we going to see 3 cars side by side in this driveway, or are we going to just see 2?
Occasionally you might, yes, because their son, when he is home, he's now 17, 18. When he comes home on certain weekends, Dad has them, there will be 3 cars across. But it's not going to be an everyday occurrence, and it's not going to be 365 days out of the year. We just wanted to have that option to offer to our renters. If their son stays with them on, so he goes with his mom, and the other weekends he's with his dad, which happens to be living here. That will give him, not so that he doesn't have to park on the street, because we've already had a problem on the street, where we just put the car on the street to shovel the snow. The guy across the street ran right into his car. And so we're just trying to for everybody all unconcerned.
Yeah. Ms. Vick, partial explanation of what you may hear regarding the vote. This is an issue that we specifically brought before the council and got specific advice back.
Right.
I will vote no on this for that reason, simply because we have received very clear instructions in my mind that the discretion that this board has to grant certain variances does not apply in the case of front doors. I realize that those types of rental properties like you have with one garage are always going to be an issue regarding that. And that is the exact reason why we had brought this before the city council, and we got our direction. So to the extent that we vote on this, I will vote no. I will vote to oppose. Alderperson Gerlach, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I want to acknowledge that this is a very difficult situation, and I will support whatever decision the board makes. Of course, I have no expertise in this area. I just want to go on record as saying that I've been wonderfully cooperative and honest and upfront about this all along, and they have worked within the system. The first thing they did was call me. I put them in touch with the right person who said, you can't do this, but here's the next step you could take. And they've gone through all the steps. very respectfully and cooperatively. And I know that you probably are going to have to deny this request, but I don't want to miss the chance to thank them for trying to follow the process and do the best they could to speak for themselves.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Alderperson Gerlach. Do we have a motion on this, gentlemen?
I make a motion to deny.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Made a motion to deny the Van Lanen's request for the variance on their duplex at Zizi. And Mr. seconded the motion. So we're before we have before us now the motion to deny. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
An aye from you, Noel?
Yeah, I'm still trying to see if I can live in a reality where I hear that just the sidewalk part of this driveway widening and not that there's going to be 3 cars parked across there. But yeah, I think I got to be a no too. But I think I got to be a no.
Thank you.
Therefore, we have 5 votes no, and the variance request is denied. Thank you, Ms. Van Lanen, for your interest in presenting this to us. I wish we could have had a better answer. But in this particular case, discussion with the powers that be, and they have given us their opinion. So
Thank you for not
Yeah.
taking the request.
yes.
Thank you for giving me the time.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Steph, we have a 617 Pine Terrace as item 6.
We sure do. So this one is another rear yard setback request to minimize that rear setback. So this is Burns Avenue here, Pine Terrace here, property located with the star. Their general site layout looks like this. So this is their full rear yard. Setback from the house is 41 feet. What they're looking to do is add this deck onto the house, which would be 14 feet deep, making that setback line both 15 and approximately 18 and 15 feet along that rear property line. So going from 25 down to 18 and 16 respectively. I have no idea what this photo is of. Paul put it in here. I'm guessing that the applicant can help me figure out what this is referencing, but that is in here in case we need it. But this is generally what we're looking at is this setback here.
All
The
right.
applicant is on the line.
Okay, I'd like to hear from the applicant. Mr. or Ms. Mathis, are you on? Did I get the last name correct?
Mathis.
Very good. Could you explain to us why you're proposing the deck the way you are?
Sure. So in regards to our property in the back, the property shape is angled. So the angle that's closer to the house is where then the patio door comes from, which would be where you would place the deck. And unfortunately then, like in that photo, the setback for that is we just can't accommodate the 25 feet from our property line.
Excuse me, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, Hazel. My name
Nope,
is
you're all
Chad
good.
Craig. I own and I'm a licensed general contractor that's looking to build this deck. I couldn't get the phone done. You, Hazel, that I would talk during it. The picture that you weren't, if you can go to that other one. Do you see the string line that's
Yeah.
running?
Yep.
That would be, that's their back door that the deck would go off of where you see the temporary step. That line is where 25 feet, that's a parallel line with their lot line to get the 25-foot setback. Their deck would only be 6 foot to 10 foot in like a triangle piece if I went off the setback. If that's how you said you didn't didn't know is where 25 feet would be parallel with their property line. The drawing of the item 26, the drawing makes the property line look a lot more square than it is. It's one of the oddest property lots that I've ever come across, to be honest with you. I'm sure there's already been a bunch of variances. This house is a brand new home. They knocked down a house and put up 2 new houses side by side. I'm sure if you looked in the file, there's already a bunch of variances. Both driveways in the front are way too close to the property line. They would have to have a variance there. The neighbor that, if you went back to item 26, so if you're looking at this sheet, the rear blue dot that would indicate on your left when you look at it, the neighbor that would be to the left to this Heinz driveway is actually on their property. So that's more information than you need to know, but the drawing of the deck, those are, when I say approximate, it's within a couple inches of what that would be. And that would be the furthest protruding point of their deck.
All right. So the argument is that the deck that we would be allowed to build according to the ordinance is insufficient. And we need the variance. We need the variance to accommodate the deck that we believe is required or appropriate.
Correct.
All right, I'll turn this over to the rest of my board members. I have no further questions.
I'm really confused just on some of the basics here. I'm the drawing of the deck just alone. And it says house at the bottom, and then a rectangle that says deck. And so if the deck is adjacent to the house and it's only 14 feet deep, then I look at the site plan that shows the house and shows 41 feet to the rear lot line, does it not? And so if you had a 14-foot deck off the back of that house, would you not have 31-foot rear yard setback?
No, because
that
41, sorry, the 41 feet is at the corner of their house. That rear lot line, that's why I was saying this drawing makes it look a lot more square. When you're looking at that drawing, if you can put that 41,
Here, I'm gonna share an actual aerial that might help.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, there. That's the one yeah.
Yeah, so at the northwest, the northeast corner of this house, you might have enough for a bigger setback.
Yeah. So if where it says 6-153, that 6, that would be the corner of the house where it's 41.
Yeah.
The lot line, the house is not even close to parallel with the rear lot line. So where the J is on that drawing, if you went out the back, that would be the center of the deck because that's where their sliding patio door is. So where, that's why that picture's in there with the orange string line to show you how close the foot setback is to their house. It's literally that other drawing, and they're surveyed markers. I actually went out there, they're true surveyed markers, laid out all their property lines on the certified. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So that what you just drew, and that is still the deck that would already be past the back where you drew that line. If you went back to that string line picture, that's showing you 25 feet off their property line.
Can I just ask a quick question? Is there a case being presented as to the reason for a 14-foot deck?
There's more than one reason. One is from a cost effectiveness, you want to be in 2-foot increments. Anything from 10 foot to 14 foot, your price per material wise is not going to drastically change that much. Even if they wanted to do any sort of activity, entertainment area, with what they have right now, it would be senseless to put on a patio or deck on the back of their house using that 25-foot setback. You couldn't set a chair in there and then have a person walk past the chair on the one side. That's what I was trying to show with the orange string line.
Right.
So just one other thing here, if I can, in the fundamentals, is this deck starting in the notch between the garage and the house, or is the deck completely off the rear of the house as measured from Pine Terrace?
Can you go back to the picture with the string line?
Yep.
Okay. Do you see the patio door in the background where there's
Yeah.
2 temporary steps? Do you see the dryer vent?
Yep.
That dryer vent would be the one edge of the deck coming, that would be the far end of the deck coming back towards you in the picture. The patio door would be almost center of the deck. So 7 feet each way of the deck. The garage bump out, the deck wouldn't even nearly come to the garage. The deck is the center of the rear of the house.
Okay. So it's on the rear of the house. It's not anywhere near the side yard.
No, yeah. So that dryer vent where you can see the sun shadow there, that would be their side property line. And it's not anywhere within the setback requirements where we need a variance. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think I understand.
But there is only like 10 feet. If you actually look, you can see what I was talking about. That's 2 brand new homes next to one another. There's not that sunshade is all the gap that there is between the houses on the side. Yeah. It's just very odd laid out, that whole area.
I can see the argument for a variance. Excuse me. I just want the board to think about how much detail we want. If everybody agrees that a variance is needed, do we agree that the deck should be that large? And if not, how much micromanagement of the size of the deck do we want?
Yeah, right, Mr. Chairman. I'm not questioning the size of the deck. It seems like a perfectly reasonable deck size. My arms around where it was in relation to the house and the dimensions that we saw on that drawing, which don't seem to match up here with this. And what I'm struggling with is do we ask for a drawing showing the location of the deck relative to the actual house on the parcel as it exists, or can we just get our brains around it enough to act on it with the descriptions we've got tonight?
Yeah, I'm in favor of granting a variance.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way too, just because of the way this lot is jiggered. You're gonna have a conflict there, right? Even if you're in compliance on the one end or close to it on the one end.
Right. Right. I'm also hesitant to have the board get into the shenanigans of saying, well, you can have a deck this size, but not that size, but we'll give you the variance for such and such.
Right. Yeah, can we just go to the aerial one more time, please, Steph?
Oops, yep. Like the full map aerial?
Yeah, just
Hmm.
So if you're looking, do you see where it says 10.177 square feet
Yeah.
or SF? That F would be when you're looking at this drawing, so that would be the rear of the house, okay?
All right.
So the deck would be where it says 3C SM 601. The deck would be between that 1 and the bottom of the F.
Yeah.
In that vicinity. The patio door that you saw in the other drawing is pretty much center, right? Yep, right where you have the mouse right now.
Yeah.
And if you look what I was talking about, if you look at the far corner where the widest point would be of the lot line,
Mhm.
you can see the driveway from the neighbors is on their property. I don't know how this area was laid out.
Interesting.
So
Yep.
the homeowners have taken their diligence as well, to make sure that the survey marks were true, metal detector, the whole 9. And then I made sure that the stakes were actually done by a surveyor before I even begun to lay any of this out.
All right. Are we at a point where we can have a motion on this?
I think so. And I would note too, on that aerial, when you see the curvature of on the front of the house, of the lot off the street, it looks like they used the farthest in part to set the house in terms of setting that setback for the front yard. So they didn't contend with this issue then. If they had, they could have, argued for a setback that was at the average, of 25 feet from the front yard, based on the itself. But because they went back there, they actually kind of shortchanged themselves on the rear yard. And I think that's part of the reason why we're dealing with this. Plus that weird, angle, an acute angle at that back corner of the property. And I think it just makes for a little bit of a wonky site layout. And I think we should let them have their variance, and I would move to approve as requested.
Do we have a second for Noel's motion?
I'm going to vote yes on this. I just want to make a note on record. Like, I feel like it's our job to hear the case be presented to us rather than assume. And I understand the cost-based thing, but that's not a consideration for us. An average deck, this is the size, this is my intended use, this is a normal use for a house, this is what a deck should look like, and the setback or the lot line doesn't allow me to use this in a way that allows me to do it. If that was the presentation, I would be a slam dunk, but it wasn't what the presentation was, and then it doesn't follow the 3-step. But we're filling that in for them, so I just want to call that out. To me, that's the case that should have been made.
Yep.
I'm hearing that indirectly being made, so therefore I will vote yes. But just pointing that out for the board.
A fair point, Tommy. But do you second it anyway?
Yes.
All right. Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Alverson, seconded by Mr. Everman to approve the variance for the to approve the variance request for the property address. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? You have your variance.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
All right,
You're
thank you.
welcome. Okay, we get to the last one. And I'm guessing that the property owner is on for this one as well, but why don't you tee us up, Steph?
Sure. I think the property owner will have more information than I do on this one because we don't have a site plan. This is on 11th Avenue. This is another request for an egress window in the front yard. As you can see from this building, there is a driveway on the one side that would probably prohibit some of the, being able to put an egress window there. And this is a little bit better view of this current setup. Beyond that, I'm not really sure where they're proposing to put it. I guess I'm assuming under one of these windows. That would make the most sense, but I think that the applicant can speak to that.
Okay, does the applicant wish to present the case for the variance?
Hi.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Please.
Well, we weren't sure because they said they would be able to put it on the other side of the house too, but they weren't sure because our property lines are kind of weird also. I did talk to my neighbor that is closest to the other side of the house, so away from my driveway, and he said he doesn't care as long as it's not on his property. But if we cannot do it on this, asking if we could do it underneath that small window in the front. Right there, yes.
I think I'd like to be able to see the proposed. I'm not sure if we can, given the discussion that we've had before, you can see that we may be receptive to this, but at this point, we're kind of left with not any kind of a plan of what this could be. So maybe I'm just the only one that is concerned about this. Let me pass the buck to my fellow board members, and they can ask some of the same questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the east window in the front of this house.
Do you think we have enough information, Noel?
Yeah, I mean, what's the,
I think the
how they
just,
put an egress window in the front of the house in the south corner. I mean, she's describing that they're gonna put it below that window.
yeah,
So, yeah, I'm in favor of that. I think that that's a reasonable thing to do.
yeah, and the applicant has explained the reason, which
Yeah.
certainly explains why there's an urgency to have this done.
Yeah, and again, I think this is a shortcoming in the way we're administering egress windows right now, not necessarily an issue with, kind of a conventional hardship.
Right. Okay, if we are in violent agreement again, then a motion would be in order. Unless any of the rest of the board questions to ask.
I move approval of the request as presented for an egress window under the south, window on the front of the house.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Hutchison has provided the second motion and a second. We can jump right into the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. I see 5-0.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Good luck. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're ready to, I think at this point, the meeting that I missed last time, gentlemen, was there any discussion, or Steph, do you have any information regarding the lawsuit?
I don't at this time. I don't have any report anyway.
All right,
Move to close the floor.
yes.
I'll second.
All in favor to close the floor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, that's the only additional point I wanted to raise. So I think at this point, we can go to adjournment.
Move to adjourn. Oh, Tommy's got something.
Yep.
Oh, no, I'll second that, but quick question. Has there been any discussion about this moving to an in-person thing in the next month or two?
That's a really good question. I would like to know too, as a staff member. Our city council went to their first hybrid this month or late last month. So there's discussions surrounding us moving back in person, but then each different committee has to adjust their meeting schedule because we have so many meetings that overlap. Like right now, Plan Commission is happening. So we as staff haven't really gotten the details of that. I think that like our monthly meetings might get more of like you might get blindsided a little bit faster with this. I run our landmarks commission and I'm a little concerned with how quickly they're going to make us come back. But right now I know they're at least trying a hybrid model for city council. So we don't have any direction as staff yet.
That's all.
Good.
So second the motion.
Okay, we have
Well,
a-
wait, I have a question.
You go ahead,
um,
Tom.
Withdraw my motion.
Do we have any indication of the time frame in regards to the Habitat for Humanity home and when that's supposed to be done by?
I don't know. I don't have any update on that. I could ask somebody and have them email you all.
Okay, because I drove past and it still seems to be where it was before. There just hasn't been any new construction on it.
Yeah, yeah, and they haven't, I don't believe they've even started on the other lot yet either. But it looked like they were getting ready, so maybe I've been out of town for a week, maybe the whole thing may be done for all I know. All right, yeah, Steph, to both of those issues that, you know, I understand why you wouldn't have any information, but to the extent that there's any kind of information that can come from legal or anything like that regarding the lawsuit, and then the one that we expected to be the lawsuit that wasn't, the Habitat for Humanity, both of those are kind of lingering in our minds right now, so any
Okay, I'll try to
information.
get an update emailed out to you all.
All right, good. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
And on the subject of returning to in-person, with the exception of the hardship at the remote meetings might put onto certain people who don't have the technology that we all seem to have. You know, I kind of like these. So
Okay.
I do too.
I wouldn't be in a hurry
Yeah.
to go back to in-person, although I love you all and like the camaraderie when we're physically together and talk in the hallway as we're done and stuff like that. But we don't have to do that. And I think as long as we're not hearing complaints from petitioners that they're not able to access the meeting in some fashion, I think we should continue to do this for, you know, as long as we can.
Yeah, I don't think that they've worked out the
Or
kinks with
even a hybrid
model
model.
either. So, I mean, I think that they had like each individual council person had to have their own iPad anyway, like sitting there. So it was really just in case people wanted to come in to listen to the meeting. But even then, there can only be so many people in a room still. It seemed a little sloppy. So I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that
you're
would be
right, you're right.
having a place for the petitioner to come in.
Yeah, there's so many people.
Is there a limit? Is there a limit to the number of people that are allowed on a Zoom?
I don't think so. Not on our account anyway. We pay good money for this. So I think
Okay,
we can go as long as we want with as many people as we want.
If they start having the petitioner come in person, that does feel a little like General Zod and like Superman, where they come before the screens, like 1984 George Orwell. But you know, that's all right.
Yeah, we could maybe come up with weird lighting or something and like, yeah, do you want to?
Yeah.
Vanish into the phantom zone and they go flying off into space.
I noticed that none of you have put a fake background up yet. I've been thinking about that. You don't have to look at my messy
There we
desk.
go.
Let's revert to Noel's motion. And we have a motion made to adjourn, and I think somebody seconded it.
Donnie,
Good. All right, all in favor? Aye,
aye.
Say
we're
bye.
done.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks, everybody.
one more thing. Stephanie, heck of a job. Thank you very much.
good job.
Thank
And
you.
your
You
initial
wanna-
Thank you.
backup,
Good
so-
job, Steph.
If
You did a
if you
great
want to
job,
keep
actually.
doing
She
it,
pulled up some,
I'm good.
she made me nervous about Paul there. She even had like a
Yeah.
little tool where she was pulling out, you know, digital measurements and everything.
Be
I was
sure to
like,
tell him that I
"Oh."
kicked his butt in this. I would appreciate
Alright.
it.
Okay,
Going slick.
Good.
we'll lament your absence next time we see you.
Yep, right.
Good
Yeah.
call out, Don. Good call out.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Take care.